Hey guys, what is up? Niad here with Film Comics Explained, and today we'll be taking a look at the MEV1 virus, as featured in the 2011 medical disaster film, Contagion. Directed by Steven Soderbergh and featuring an incredible cast including Lawrence Fishburne, Kate Winslet, Bryan Cranston, and Matt Damon among others. The plot of the film follows the spread of the fictitious MEV1 that was inspired from the Nipah virus, a neurological and respiratory disease. The Nipah virus, which was identified in 1999, was responsible for over 100 human deaths and the culling of over 1 million pigs. What's most terrifying about the Nipah virus is that there is still no effective treatment or vaccine for it. The Nipah virus, as with the fictitious MEV1 virus, is classified as a biological security level 4 microbe. This is the strictest level of pathogen containment, and only a few laboratories around the world, such as the Atlanta CDC, have the equipment and staff to work with it. The MEV1 virus is also a zoonotic life form, a disease-causing pathogenic microbe which can be passed on to human beings. MEV1 has an incubation period of several hours, whilst the Nipah virus incubates between 4 to 18 days. There is no pathogen that we have seen as of yet in the real world that has the same kind of incubation period as MEV1. To put it into perspective, viruses like the mumps and rubella have incubation periods ranging from 12 to 23 days, while the common cold and influenza have incubations of between 1 to 3 days. MEV1 is so transmissible, we see it spread around the globe within days. This may seem far-fetched, but this scenario is not only plausible, it has already happened. With the outbreak of SARS in 2003 in Asia and the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, SARS had spread to 13 countries across 3 continents within a month, and H1N1 spread globally within weeks. Soderbergh and the screenwriter Scott Burns were actually developing the script during the fallout of H1N1. MEV1 virus is described as pleomorphic and ovoid in shape, with glycoproteins on the outer surface. Pleomorphism increases a virus's ability to evade the host immune system, the number of reservoir organisms, and the mechanisms of transmission, which is what makes MEV1 so resilient. In Contagion, we see the virus infect the brain and lung cells as they have the appropriate receptors for the glycoproteins on the capsid's surface, just like the lock and key mechanism described in the film. Once it reaches this location, it begins to cause inflammation of the brain and respiratory systems. MEV1 reaches humans through a series of animal encounters. We see a bat eat some fruit, it then drops it into a pig pen. The pig eats it and is then butchered and handled by a chef who comes into contact with Gwyneth Paltrow's character. The creators of the film only needed to turn to real life for inspiration, as both pigs and bats are culprits in Nipah outbreaks. After the hard work of many epidemiologists and scientists, they were able to come up with a vaccine within 4 months, but not before the deaths of 28 million victims around the world. Unfortunately for us, according to the CDC, in the case of an entirely new virus emerging, developing a vaccine within 4 months is unlikely, as the process of identification, formulation of a vaccine, and trials would take much longer. I remember feeling unsettled after watching the film. I've seen so many pandemic movies in the past, but they all seem so removed from reality that I disconnect from them on a personal level and just enjoy the ride. Contagion had me scratching my head, as the scenario that was displayed to us, although slightly exaggerated for dramatic effect, was for the most part a real-life possibility. Soderbergh and Burns, who had previously collaborated on The Informant, went to great lengths to ensure that this wasn't another cliché pandemic film. They created a list of everything they'd seen in other films, like random shots of Paris, even though the characters don't go there, and they didn't want to see things like the president. This caused the film to be defined by what they didn't want it to be. To capture a greater sense of realism, the whole film was shot using a Red One MX digital camera, which uses ambient light and has 4.5K image resolution. The actors also did a lot of research and preparation for their specialized roles to give us a layered and detailed portrayal of the characters dealing with the pandemic across multiple countries and varying professions. It was also interesting to note that, as well as directing, Soderbergh served as the chief cinematographer, although it's credited under Peter Andrews. Soderbergh had said that he wanted the film to be more intimate and realistic than other pandemic films, which he achieved by working tirelessly in the editing room. With an hour of edited material that's not in the film, and at least 20 different cuts that Soderbergh presented to Burns and the producers, this movie was painstakingly refined to ensure that the bigger picture was not lost in the scope of the project and the size of the incredible cast. I believe the creative team were able to achieve this for the most part. Burns had himself consulted with representatives of the World Health Organization, including Larry Brilliant, who was one of the leaders in the World Health Organization's smallpox eradication program. He also consulted with Ian Lipkin, a professor of epidemiology who has discovered over 400 new viruses. Unfortunately, that's all that we have time for. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the MEV1 virus and the movie Contagion as a whole, so please share these in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Nihat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.